Hey people, we have Michael, Tintiuc, and Grgur here, and today we're going to be talking about something very special. We want to introduce you to a special project that we've been working on for a while. It's called Ionic Vue, or how we call it internally, Vueonic. That's a tongue breaker. So Ionic Vue, and Michael Tintiuc is the mastermind behind Ionic Vue. Hey Michael, how are you doing?
Hey, great. Trying not to melt in the summer heat right now.
So the one thing that looks odd is Ionic Vue. Usually we have Ionic, we have Vue, we have, just libraries, and now we have a merger. So what's going on here?
Right, it's kind of hard to think about it for the first time, as Ionic is just not your average bootstrap library, right? It's way more than just a UI library. And in case of Vue Ionic, what it does, it brings the two together in a sense that it brings Vue into the Ionic ecosystem just as much as it brings Ionic into the Vue world. So it creates components that you can reuse natively in Vue and then go further along and build your PWAs using Vue, etc. So it's best of two worlds.
I got it, but Ionic, since version 4, Ionic are web components, right?
Yeah.
And the last I checked, Vue works perfectly well with web components. So are we reinventing the wheel, or is this really necessary?
Well, it's both yes and no. In terms of, you can use web components in Vue without any trouble, but you can only go as far as that will allow you. In terms of, you still have to hook in to routing, transitions, and a lot of that is gonna either require a lot of boilerplate with transitions between routes, for example, and you will probably have to write your own router. So if you're down for that, ping me and we'll talk. Otherwise, you can use the library and we do all the heavy lifting for you of integrating Ionic into Vue.
Okay, that sounds good. So Ionic Vue basically merges the two ecosystems together, right? So we can write beautiful mobile UI presentations or applications, UI components using the Vue ecosystem, right? And what I heard is that router is probably one of the biggest challenges, because routing is, in Ionic, routing is used for navigation, for showing tabs, maybe some other features. And this is what actually was required to be merged together, right?
Yeah. Not as much as the routing itself. The thing with routing is if you get your first page load right, it will work with routing as well, because it just loads a new component, right? The real problem, the real challenge was those awesome fluid platform-specific transitions that Ionic has, and getting that to work with Vue. And yeah, it took me some time to figure it out. But I mean, it's amazing that I don't know if Vue devs had ever imagined that it will work that way. Probably some guy in the back of the room said, hey, let's do this, and allow some weird dude to implement it, and it works. I mean, there are a couple of ways to introduce it, but you won't probably find the implementation in your average Vue application because there's no use for it. But for library and framework integration work, it's just perfect. I'm really happy that Vue has this.
Cool. So basically, you just import Ionic Vue that does a lot of the bindings for you, and then work with the components, right? And this is the one thing that I've been missing. So, as a disclaimer, along the side with Michael working on Ionic Vue, there's another team at Modus that's working on a sample application, which is kind of a full-feature e-commerce app that uses Ionic Vue. And I worked with it a little bit, and I actually tried to use web components and not Ionic Vue components. If you've been following our YouTube channel, you would have noticed that we have a lot of Vue 3 content. So the one thing that I really enjoy by Vue 3 is not only the composition API, but what composition API enables, which is a phenomenal type safety with Typescript, right? And then TypeScript also brings some of the awesome ID features like IntelliSense. And how can you write a component and not have it autocomplete? That's like, to me, that's super ridiculously important. So I was trying to write web components, and I tried to be a kind of really bad team member here and not do Ionic Vue. And I was like, oh, I want to see how to do this without Ionic Vue, just with web components. That was miserable. And after I tried Ionic Vue, I kind of converted all that. I was like, oh, I'm back home.
Yeah. Welcome back. That's one of the biggest things with the new version, and one of the biggest issues with the current one is that now everything is a native component, which allows you to introduce into your Ionic Vue components all of the features of Vue 3. So that's very, very, very cool, and it's much easier to use.
So Vue beta is, is I think getting close to RC. I think that's the news that I heard today, that they're planning to release candidate by the end of July, and this is this month. So how far along are you with Ionic Vue?
Well, you can measure the current alpha version. Basically, I started working on it on day 1 of the release of the Vue 3 beta. So that's a couple of months now old, right? So in terms of development, it's feature complete. It has everything and a couple of extra features on top of it right now. I still call it alpha for the reasons I'm not really testing it that much, so I'm mostly writing the code. So when I have everything in, it will finish alpha, transition to beta. Then we do our round of testing with the example app of the viewport, and it's going to be ready. I reckon it's about a month away from something close to an RC as well, or the first release.
Great. Well, that's pretty exciting. So you're pretty much following the release cycle of Vue 3.
Yeah, I really love that we started working on Ionic Vue 2 years ago, right? And I missed that feeling of working on something new. Well, obviously Ionic Vue just wasn't new enough after 2 years of development. There's just bug fixes and keeping up to speed with dependencies. And now Vue 3 comes out and I'm back again. There's a 2-year older me trying to figure out how everything works. No documentation, no nothing, just looking up the Vue 3 source. And just as 2 years ago, I got up to speed and have had a working prototype really, really fast. But there are kinks to work out, so I really enjoyed the fact that I was able to go back in time and relive that experience.
Yeah, you don't look any older, dude. Just more experience.
Yeah,
but
that's what they say.
Yeah, but what Michael is saying is that 2 years ago, Michael started with Ionic Vue version like 1, but that's Vue 2 and Ionic 4 when Ionic just released its web component support, right? And now the game has changed. It's a whole new kind of level because there is like 2 years worth of experience, and at Modus, we've been working with a lot of clients on Vue and Ionic Vue. A lot of actual enterprise applications that went out public, and we've been able to collect all that know-how, experience, and all those little tricks, and put that into the repository that we maintain for Ionic Vue.
Yeah, so I wanted to give you a quick example. So the other day, about a week ago, I was driving and I received a notification on my phone, and I was at the red light. And I looked it up. It was an issue in Ionic Vue saying that for some reason you cannot configure Ionic. You cannot pass any configs to it. I was like, well, that's weird. It's always worked for me. And I come back home and I realized that one of the latest versions kind of broke it, of versions of Ionic 5.1. So I push out a fix and release a new version, and the guy just responds with, "Wow, that was quick." And that's a really cool feeling of just being back and forth with the community on a really snappy and being fast about it. And I love that. Just being able to talk to them and have feedback directly.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. As someone who gets some of those notifications too, I know that you respond to them almost immediately. But so hold on, did you fix that while waiting for the red light to turn green, or did you go home?
Wish. I wish. Yeah.
Oh no, that would have been awesome.
There's probably a plugin for Vim for that, but I don't have it installed.
Vim phone, Vim red light.
Yeah. That's a cool sounding name.
Vim red light. Don't code and drive. Okay, so
should be a banner.
Yeah, that could be a banner, a bumper sticker. So that's great news, Michael. I'm glad that you're getting somewhere with Ionic Vue for Vue 3 and Ionic 5. And as I said, we've been kind of testing the waters with the sample application. Ionic Vue is already public, so anyone can use it, right? The sample application is still not there, but I think we're gonna release that fairly soon. But Ionic Vue is a library for version 3. The alpha is available, and the link is in the description. Is it okay that the community starts working with it?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I would very highly appreciate it, because with front-end applications, there's so many use cases, so many ways to integrate something and ways to break something. So the more people try it out, the more people integrate it into their own workflow, the more information we get, the more things we can fix and improve and get feedback on usage and that sort of thing.
Moving forward, Michael and I are going to continue this conversation about Ionic and Vue, right? We've been talking about things like bootstrapping Ionic Vue just to show how it's done, right? Then showing tabs and how to arrange kind of the application skeleton and just those regular popular components like the tabs.
Yeah. Well, just tell you a little bit about tabs. In Vue 2, I just hated tabs because they were the most difficult component I've ever written for it. And I still didn't think that I got it right. So in Vue 3, I love tabs because they are way more easy to integrate. It's just plug and play, and I love it. And we will probably backport that feature to the previous version. One of the other things that we can talk about is functional components and how you can integrate them with Ionic Vue and get that stateless performance boost. I just love that. Everything in Ionic Vue is a functional component, and then you sprinkle some composition API, which I just fell in love with. It's just great. It's amazing. I love it.
Oh, dude, I want to see how composition API works with Ionic Vue. Or how composition API in Vue works with Ionic. That's the proper way to say it, right? Okay.
Yeah. There are some neat tricks, yeah.
Thank you so much, Michael. This is a great intro, and we'll continue the conversation about Ionic Vue. And give me this virtual high five.
There you go.
Come on.
No, 2 of them.
Yeah.
Thank you.
See you soon.
See you later.